Let's face it, gardening in shade can be a challenge. Shade gardening is trickier than full sun gardening, in my opinion. But I've got good news. There are actually tons of amazing plants that can transform those challenging shady spots in your garden. And today I'm sharing 6 remarkable shade-loving perennials and one I'm never buying again. The first 6 perennials I'm sharing aren't just survivors, they're showstoppers. And I'm also going to share one shade-loving perennial that was a huge disappointment in my garden. So let's get this discussion started with the perennials that I love. And the first shade-loving plant that I want to share is Adiantum pedatum, also known as the northern maidenhair fern. This plant is a hardy native to regions in North America, including here in my southeast Michigan garden, and it's also native in temperate East Asia and the Himalayas. It prefers a free-draining soil that's rich in organic matter. This fern grows in zones 3 through 8. It will grow approximately 1 to 2.5 feet tall and 1 to 1.5 feet wide, and it grows in part shade to full shade light conditions. This is a deciduous fern that has these amazing black stems and this tropical-looking textured foliage. This plant is a complete stunner in the garden and will add an incredible amount of texture and movement to your shade border. It's considered to be a low-maintenance plant. It's slow spreading through branching rhizomes, but eventually will form large colonies over time. I purchased my plants at a local native plant nursery in Mason, Michigan, called Wild Type. I'll be sure to leave a link in the description below. One of the things I'm interested in trying this season is to propagate this plant from spores. The spores form on the back side of the fronds from July through September. Just brush these spores off and place them into humus-rich soil. They take quite a while to germinate, but I actually managed to germinate some plants last season with one of my house plants. So I want to try this again this season. The next shade-loving perennial I want to share is Epimedium grandiflorum, also known as the large flowering barrenwort or bishop's hat. This plant has been cultivated and hybridized for over 150 years and includes up to 58 species. Epimedium grows in zones 3 through 8. It blooms in the springtime, and depending on the variety, the blooms are different colors. It will grow approximately 8 to 10 inches tall and 12 to 18 inches wide. It grows in part shade to full shade light conditions and is also adapted to dappled light. It can tolerate dry shade, making it a great plant for under trees. It's deer, rabbit, and disease resistant. The epimedium that I have growing in my garden has a wonderful reddish border along the foliage in the early spring. I'm not sure what the variety is, but it also has gorgeous bright yellow blooms in the spring. The leaf color fades to a darker green once the growing season progresses. This plant is a slow grower, but your patience will pay off once it establishes itself. It's a beautiful ground cover for your shade border. The third shade-loving perennial that I want to share is Hellebores x hybridus. Gardeners typically group these all together and just call them Hellebores. These plants grow in zones 4 through 9, and they grow approximately 18 to 24 inches tall and 24 to 30 inches wide. They can grow in part shade to full shade light conditions. They bloom in early to mid-spring, many times blooming at the same time that there's snow in my area. These plants are some of my favorite plants for a shade border. They make wonderful cut flowers and are the first blooms that I typically see in springtime, along with snowdrops. These plants come in a variety of bloom colors and are simply gorgeous. Here on the Bluestone Perennial website, you can see some of the amazing varieties that are available for the home gardener. The fourth shade-loving perennial that I want to share is Corydalis lutea, or yellow fringe-leaf bleeding heart. This plant is a superstar in my garden, blooming from early spring until the frost. They are covered with bright yellow blooms and they have delicate-looking blue-green foliage. This plant grows in zones 6 through 9. It grows approximately 9 to 12 inches tall and 9 to 12 inches wide. It's deer and rabbit resistant, and it grows in part shade to full shade light conditions. Corydalis lutea does self-seed throughout the garden, but the seedlings are very easy to remove if they show up in an area where they're not wanted. This is a great plant for your shade garden. The fifth shade-loving perennial that I want to share with you is Polygonatum odoratum, also known as Solomon's seal. This is a herbaceous perennial that grows in zones 4 through 8. I grow a variegated variety in my garden, which has bright green leaves edged with white, and the stems are tinged with a little bit of maroon color. It gets these dainty drooping white blooms in springtime. This plant grows in part shade to full shade light conditions. It grows roughly 2 feet tall and 2 feet wide, spreading slowly each season. This plant is deer and rabbit resistant, and in the autumn when the leaves die back, it still gives a focal point in your shade garden. The sixth perennial plant that I want to share today is a grass, and that's called Hakanekloa macra areola, the variegated Japanese forest grass. This plant plays a key role in a number of areas in my own garden, and it might be one of my favorites. It was voted the 2009 Perennial Plant Association Plant of the Year. It grows in zones 5 through 9, and it can grow in a mostly sunny to full shade condition. It grows 12 to 18 inches tall, and the recommended spacing is 18 inches apart. This grass is deer resistant, and it's another grass that adds great color and movement to your garden. And the greatest thing is it's got interest all season long. In the autumn, it starts to turn a purpley tinge, as you can see here, and it matches the Japanese maple perfectly. And I even love how it looks in the wintertime when it's surrounded by snow and the leaves have turned a beautiful shade of brown. This is a great plant for the garden. And now for the shade-loving perennial that has given me huge amounts of buyer's remorse, and that is Heuchera, and the variety specifically is Fire Alarm. Now, before everybody gets excited, I think the reason that this Heuchera doesn't work in my garden is I don't have the right growing conditions, and we're going to talk about that specifically. So let's take a look at the stats for this plant. All right, so I've got this Heuchera up on the Bluestone Perennials website here, and you can see it's just a stunning plant. And if we look at the stats for this plant, it grows in full sun to full shade, zones 4 through 9. It's a fairly short growing plant, total of 9 inches tall, and the recommendation is 10 to 18 inches apart for spacing. And again, if I look at just kind of go through some of these images here on the website, you can see it's just got absolutely beautiful foliage, and that is exactly why I purchased this plant. But I want to take a closer look here at a description that I think is the reason why this plant doesn't grow in my garden. Now, when they talk about Heuchera plant care, they mention the fact that we've got frost heaving in cold climates. That's pretty standard. But one of the things that I do want to point out here is that the Bluestone Perennial website makes it very clear that you must have good drainage over the winter. And this is something that I do not have in my front garden. And I think this is the reason why my plants didn't survive. That was a very costly mistake. And now I understand that I can't grow Heuchera in my garden. But I was able to locate a native variety of Heuchera, Heuchera americana. True, it doesn't have the bright red foliage. The foliage here is simply green. But this native version of Heuchera has proved to be a real superstar in my garden. It's in its second season, it bloomed beautifully, and the foliage looks great all season long. So if you want to try a native Heuchera, I can definitely recommend Heuchera americana. I'd love to hear if you have recommendations for some remarkable shade-loving perennials. I'd love to hear what's working in your garden. And have you ever had the unfortunate experience of finding out the hard way that certain plants just don't grow in your area? Leave me some comments. That's it for this video, and we'll see you in the next one.